We'll call the regular selectmen's meeting to order here at 3 o'clock today. We're going to start with privilege of the floor. Is there anybody who has an issue that's not on the agenda they'd like to raise? Ray.
Yeah, I'm here for clarification on the planning board received an application for the box rail.
Yes.
It doesn't really talk about the trampoline, so I'm here to get clarification from the selectmen on what their intention was, and did they intend to lump the two together or handle them separately?
Your minutes.
I know what the minutes state. The minutes last talk about that they would, that on the application for the box rail, they would, if they wanted it, I assume, they would include information about the trampoline. That was stated in the meeting last time. My reaction, Ray, is if they want to put up a box rail and take the trampoline down, that's fine. I don't know. I guess we'd have to ask them, right?
Well, it's my understanding that they interpret the two as being one unit. And the notice that went out was for the rail, box rail. No
does it
no
show on the drawings and the rest of the other?
Here, you can show them.
Yeah, at our last meeting, he said, Keith responds that the deck around the trampoline setup will be part of the site plan being submitted.
Right.
And they labeled it box and rails.
Okay.
And that's what we noticed to the public.
All right.
And in my mind, if we wanted to notice the public for the trampoline, we should have said so.
Well, and all they've done is approximate location of trampoline training areas, and they show no detail or anything.
Yeah,
like
I don't even want to get into the details because that's subject to tomorrow's meeting. But my question is, should we notice the trampoline if they intend to go for approval for a trampoline separately?
Yeah. On this basis, sure. I would think so. It would have to be done separately.
Okay.
Right?
Thank you. That's my question.
I mean, they've provided information about that.
Yeah.
They haven't provided any information about that.
Yeah, because if I were in a butt, I would want to know that they're going to do a trampoline
Sure.
too, not just a
Absolutely.
box.
Yeah.
Okay, I think you've taken care of my question.
Okay. Wow. That was easy.
No, it wasn't that easy.
Any other privilege of the floor? Yes.
So my name is Emily. I am the conference center coordinator here at the conference center. I have a group coming in on Saturday, the Craig and Vanderhoof family group. They're going to be at the Brookside Bistro from 6:30 to 11. And what I'm asking and what they're asking is they want a band to play from 8:30, and they're wondering if they could get approval to have the band play until 11 o'clock at night inside the bistro.
They want the music to win midnight?
11.
11.
So just an hour
It usually
after
cuts off
at 10.
Do you have any issue here?
Have we done this in the past? Is this
yeah.
this is the first time I've
We
had
have.
We've
I
done it
think
a lot.
that you should do it subject to notifying the Golden Eagle Lodge because they are butter to that area. I mean, you've got those condos.
Snowy Owl Lane.
I mean, Snowy
Yeah,
Owl.
the Snowy Owl.
Snowy Owl, I'm sorry.
In Town Square.
Is how big
Well,
is
Town
this band? I mean,
Square,
is
the
this
same company.
Five-piece band.
five-piece band night?
Five-piece band. It's a small one.
It's on a weekend?
It's on Saturday.
This Saturday night.
I don't have any problem with granting.
Yeah,
Okay.
we've done this
Yeah.
for weddings on Packard's Field
Okay.
and for other events that have taken place. Yeah.
So I'll make so this is the conference center. I'll make a motion to grant the conference center an extended hours for band playing this coming Saturday, right? Till 11 p.m.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, you got it.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah. Others?
We may be just short, having talked to Mike about this before I came.
Yeah.
Eric and I and the Conservation Commission have been working on trying to get information about backslides. Michael says I'm reinventing the wheel.
I didn't say that.
Yeah.
Something like that. Anyway, and we've gone out and talked to various people and found out the procedure to do it. And in here, I've given you sort of what steps you would have to take, and I've given you a report from Lake Placid that they had, it's a letter they sent out to people. They have a very effective program over there, and they've had them to Balsams, they have another place here in New Hampshire. The New Hampshire Department of Agriculture, Division of Pesticide Control or whatever, is happy with us to do it, if it's a good idea. The Forest Service says, get your selectmen to come on board and then come talk to us about putting in the BTI, which is I think you guys are all familiar with, the BTI into the Forest Service streams. They didn't sound as though they were upset. And there's a lot of literature on the Forest Service website about BTI use, which it's not negative, scientific studies and things, because it's not harmful. Mike's concern was that he said we have so many streams feeding into our rivers that it would be a problem. But I think we should try something because the black flies are awful. And this year they're a little bit better by this time because I think of all the wind or something we've had. But last year they went from May through to September. And the prior 2 years they did too.
Just a few things just for your information. But you may or may not be aware that Waterville Valley was actually the test site 10 or 12 years ago for testing BTI.
Right.
More than that, because when I was there 20 years ago.
Quite a while.
Yeah, I think it was a lot longer, yeah.
And they mapped all of the potential breeding sites for black flies, because black flies have a life radius of like 2 miles, according to that stuff, right? And it is immense, the amount of water they said they came to the conclusion after the study, and they had co-ops and everything else in here for the summer capturing flies and measuring them and see what happened, that it won't make a dent in the population. They gave up for that reason.
How come other mountainous places have success then?
Oh, I can't. I know nothing.
Came up in our and when we spoke with them, the one they've done a few of these studies. This wasn't the first one, but what consistently came up, and I think Tim Kingston is really.
Tim and Greg were actually involved with you.
They really doing flies.
Yeah.
And what they said is there are just so many small tributaries that come down, whereas we use the balsams as an example where it actually worked there, because they had that one large body of water that they were able to contain and control.
Well, my recollection of BTI, this goes back 20 years, is that basically it's a muscle relaxant. And you do it at the headwaters of a stream, not in the big body of water.
Right.
You do it at the headwaters, and it relaxes the muscle. They let go of the rock, the larvae lets go of the rock they're clinging to, and they drown. That's basically how it works. And so you go to Greeley Ponds, and you go to the headwaters, and that's where you treat. And I don't know, maybe because the valley's so big, there's a lot of headwaters. I don't know, but I thought after that the town went to a system of actually sweeping the rocks at the headwaters.
We tried everything. I mean, Tim and Greg literally were spending over half of their time on the black fly issue in the spring. We worked with researchers at UNH. They came up with all kinds of different programs. The BTI issue, when we were talking about it last time, we were under the impression that the Forest Service wasn't in support of it. At least that's what I took away from it. If they are now, then okay.
Well, they certainly sounded amenable to talking to us.
Sure.
They just wanted, when I talked to them, they just wanted to know that the selectmen had an interest in doing this.
Yeah, and we have done it before. We have treated, I don't know if we use BTI or something else, but we have treated before. And like Bill said, it didn't make any appreciable difference because the winds bring in new black flies. I mean, there were all kinds of reasons that this, and we asked, I believe it was 2 or 3 years ago, we went back to UNH, to the person who did the original work with the town, and said, we want to start start doing this again? And he said, no.
Yeah.
He said you're not gonna have any effect.
I think another problem is that there's a lot of species and they breed at different times. So it's not like going out in May and you treat them once and then you're done with them. There's different species that breed at different times. Some bite and some don't.
At Lake Placid, they hire, well, they have 94 square miles that they're treating in
Right.
one area, at this one town.
Right.
Anyway, they hire 6 technicians who do the applications in the
Right.
water, and they work from April through to about the end of June. And so it's a period there of all of when the flies are laying eggs.
I lived in Lake Placid in 1994. It was the worst I don't know when they started doing this, but it was the worst I've ever seen anywhere.
Probably right around then, because he said
It
they had
was the worst I've ever seen.
Well, they've been so bad here that I think that, everybody's complaining about them.
Yeah.
I have a friend who just told me, we were talking about black fly, she just told me that she doesn't come here in June anymore because it's just so bad. And another friend was on the tennis courts and heard someone say, my God, these black flies are awful, I'm never coming back here, or something. Something to the fact, this is my first and last weekend here. But they were so terrible. You've been out in the courts, Bill.
Oh, sure. No,
They're just so terrible.
And I'm only going to speak here kind of as an individual. If we could come up with anything that would resemble a reasonable solution, I think the majority of residents would probably vote to appropriate some money to do it. When we looked, I don't know, it was 2-3 years ago?
Just before Timmy left.
Right.
Couple of
One, we could not find a licensed applicator in the state of New Hampshire that was willing to do it.
There isn't one in New Hampshire, but there are 4 that are approved.
Would they
One of which
would they be willing to do it here?
I
Has
don't know.
anybody contacted any of them?
yes,
We couldn't find anybody because we felt that we were really struggling to ask the town employees to go running around dumping this stuff in the
Well,
streets.
they have to go for training.
Right.
We'd have to send someone for training.
So if we could find someone that wanted to take the problem on and give us, a cost estimate, I personally would be more than willing to submit it to a town meeting and see if the town would vote to give it a try.
Okay.
I mean, because like you, I think it's worth trying.
Yeah.
But we haven't found anybody.
Yeah. Well, one of the 4 that I contacted, I didn't get a
Right.
chance to call and wait for callbacks and stuff. But one of them I did actually talk to, and he said that although they were licensed to do the black flies, they have now restricted all of their work. They're in Massachusetts to actual lake waters and ponds.
Right.
And stuff, and they're doing plant.
Right.
Not flies.
Right.
But I don't know about the other 3. I haven't gotten
Right.
back from them. And that doesn't mean we can't get someone licensed here. I mean,
No, and where we ended up last time was the suggestion was that we needed to increase the habitat for bats and swallows because both those will eat like 5 times their body weight every day.
Yes, apparently
And
swallows.
the bats are, unfortunately, the bats are all
Yes.
dying.
Yeah, that's a line.
We've got bats out. We've been waiting for the last 2 years for a bat to show up.
Yeah, the bats
I thought that-
have decided to disappear, so,
I talked to someone, they said
They've been
that
killed.
the white nose disease is still
yeah,
running
it's rampant, yeah.
So you're not gonna get any with bats. Barn
So
swallows
what would
are
you
good.
have us do? I would encourage you to continue to investigate this
Yeah,
and find
I will.
someone.
I will, I'll be.
Absolutely,
I mean, really, it's just so
we can come up
awful.
with a
Yeah.
program, I'd be more than willing to
This is
put it in
just
front of
sort
the
of what
town
I learned as the basis, the steps we would have to take.
Yeah.
You've probably been through all that.
Right.
What I would suggest is we'll put you in touch with Tim Kingston, who's been through
Yeah,
this
talk
whole
to
process
Tim.
since the 70s.
Is he retired, so?
Yeah,
He
but he's
retired,
still-
yeah, he
he's
lives
still
down in
down the road.
Camden, but
I'm
he
sure
is a
he'll be
walking
willing to talk to you.
encyclopedia.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll talk to him.
Maybe we can hire him, maybe we
I was gonna say,
can get him
I-
licensed, he's
listen,
retired. Maybe-
there's a discussion about the, Lake Placid one, because this was,
Right.
that I either got it off this web.
Well, we did investigate a couple of years ago the Balsams one, and it turns out the Balsam one, because they made that television show about it.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, they did. There's a special that was made on the Balsams about how they were destroying these black flies. It was a little bit of puffery. It wasn't quite as effective as they made it out to
Is
be.
that what you want to do?
Yes, but they didn't do it as well as
They didn't do it as well as it implied in the article.
Anyway, John Riley said, he's a full-time employee
Yeah.
at North Elba and in the village of Lake Placid, and he said, he's the program director for
Right.
the program, and he said that he could train someone.
Okay.
If he had someone that would want to train, they need 35 hours or something. At least in New York, you need 35 hours to be certified.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, something like that.
If you could find more information, we'd be more than willing to pursue it.
Yeah, I think, as I say, everybody's complaining so badly. That
Yeah.
I think that, if we can do anything, it'll be worth it.
Yeah, and you're right, this year, for some reason, they've disappeared. I mean, they haven't been bad at all this year.
No, but I think that's because we've had so much wind.
I don't know why.
I haven't been once.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no idea why.
Because
I
the cold extended into May.
Maybe
Yeah.
they couldn't
Very
get
cold.
started.
Yeah.
And then when we.
It's been very windy, and when it's really windy, flies don't land on you to eat. And according to what I learned as you read your application,
Right.
bat flies after a blood meal lay their
Right.
eggs. And we're the blood meal, so.
Either us or the moose.
So, well, we will go on and keep working on it.
Okay.
As long as you show an interest.
Oh,
we-
yes.
I've always been interested.
And I would encourage you through Mark, to talk to the Forest Service about it, and say that the selectmen in the town is very interested in this, and maybe they have some information about who would help. As regards to this. Now, I think when it gets to the point of them actually having to approve something, my experience is it can take a while.
Yeah.
And that's all.
We have to push. We get our congressman involved.
There you go, right.
And you keep pushing.
It can just be
Well, it's amazing what you can do.
One of the things that we might want to do is they have these trail crews out all spring and summer long, and maybe training parts of those crews or individuals on those crews, and let them, because they're already out there, let them administer the program.
And see how far.
So the cost that you were talking about is $20,000, was that?
I saw that number. That number wouldn't scare me at all.
Right.
No, that was in, their program is much more expensive because they have so many miles and value for square miles. But he said the least minimum amount that you could have would be 12 square miles, which is essentially 2 miles out and around. And that's the minimum to be effective. But I think that given our streams, we would want a bigger circle than that.
Jim has a map. They did that. They went out and actually canvassed all the streets within a 2 square mile.
Well,
And it was stunning.
Oh, I'm sure.
Much
Well, look at
more
the map. I mean,
disadvantaged.
if you look at the running water just in the
Yeah.
and walk down the golf course, and there's
Right.
running water down there. And I don't know whether every single
Every single
Little-
one of them.
Yeah, the ideal
That's
breeding
the
grounds are
problem.
not lakes and ponds, but are fast-moving streams.
although for BTI, apparently, if you want to learn any more, which you probably don't, it apparently works on mosquitoes also.
Sure,
Those are the 2
2
things.
for 1.
Midges, black flies, and mosquitoes. But it's the black flies that are just so, they're out all day long.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
after.
thought they've been really light this year. That's just my thought.
What?
Compared to like last year.
Well,
it
they
was
don't
worse.
like Hampton because they don't have any.
Oh,
Oh,
they
yeah.
had, they had,
They didn't have.
it was earlier.
At my son's house, they have to have full net suits just to work outside.
Oh, you're kidding.
Oh,
Okay,
so
so they
bad.
don't like Hampton either. Or they do like Hampton.
Yeah.
It was warmer in Hampton than in Waterville.
Mhm.
So there were.
I thought maybe it was elevation or something that
We'll
not
check.
so much. Okay, well, we'll continue to pursue.
Okay?
Tell people
Yeah.
to look into clothes too. Clothes work.
Like what?
Clothes.
Pants.
Oh, just putting on lots
Oh,
of
clothes.
No, they have insect repellent already in them that last through
Yeah, they
70
do.
washes.
But on a tennis
It's
court,
not
your
deep.
legs are bare and your arms are
Yeah,
bare.
your arms are bare, your neck is bare, on the golf course too.
Bug bands.
Bug bats.
Bug bands.
I don't
Maybe we
know.
should have.
Right
an
now, we
ordinance
have so
that
much
people need to be
deep
fully
use.
clothed.
Yeah, none of this is deep. This is.
Guests that come into the valley will get a bug kit.
Yes, that would be a good idea.
We can spray
That
them
may
all
keep
down.
them from coming all day.
But I'm
Well,
out
thank you very much for the work that you've done, and we are very interested. If there was anything we could do to even make a 50% dent, I think it would
We're
be.
working on it. I
That'd be
host them,
wonderful.
and I have a very large family reunion every other year, where they come in with, let's see, now there's 19 children, and last summer there were 9 of them were under 3. So you're putting heat on these 3-year-olds so that they can.
Put D on.
We have to put something on. The natural stuff doesn't work against them. You have to put something on because the natural stuff, non-DEET stuff, a lot of that doesn't work.
Yeah, the geranium oil works well though.
And that lemon eucalyptus spray has no DEET, and I've been using it for 3 years. It's phenomenal.
Okay, we just got that.
I mean, you got to reapply it if you perspire a lot.
Yeah, but there's that cutters. Eucalyptus.
Yeah.
Michael and I just picked some up.
Yeah,
But it says it's only for mosquitoes.
No,
Obviously.
works on transport.
Anyway, okay, we need something.
All right,
Thank you.
Carry on.
Yeah.
in the interest of time, we'll move to a new business. Bob, you want to talk about a Heritage Commission, right?
Sure. So I've been thinking for some time that the town should celebrate the history of Waterville Valley and have a location. There's a lot of artifacts and pictures and memorabilia, and I was on the Stratton Foundation board over in Vermont for a number of years, and we had and that's Stratton started in 1962, unlike us in 1829, and they have great exhibits and they've really preserved a lot of stuff that'll be there for 100 years from now. And things like AIA, organizations like AIA that have 120 years of minutes of meetings. I'd love to get the oral history before Tom Corcoran dies, of Tom Corcoran and Anna McIntyre and other people. I'd like to have a video library where people could come in and they could look at, Tom's Olympic run. They could look at the Jack Williams race. They could look at the old World Cup races here. There was Judge Strunk video when Waterville was first built, the old Channel 6 TV shows, so you could sit in a unit and pull up any of these, not only the ones that currently exist, but 100 years from now that we pull up things that happened. We have Grace Bean's book and maybe Ray's book. Ski clothing and equipment, signs, pictures. Somebody just brought me two pictures of the old Waterville Inn that are beautiful. The frames around them are obviously very old. Town annual reports, BBTS, World Cup history. So I think there's a lot of things that we ought to be thinking about preserving for the future. And the two locations, I'm willing to lead the charge. I tried to go to the Waterville Foundation that I was on the board of and kick out the other members because we don't do anything, and sort of take it over. And they wanted to maintain their organization, although they did say they'd donate $2,000 to the cause. And then I talked to Mark about a town historic commission, which the statutes allow for, and I don't think we have one. And the locations that I've looked at are, one is a new building behind the library, land that the company, the town already owns. Or I think a unique idea would be to approach the Wymans over here and offer the Wymans, which that house has been just like that since I came here originally in 1973. I mean, it's a shame. And I don't recall that I've ever met them, but I understand that they have their own agenda. And I thought maybe if they could get a tax deduction for donating that building to the town, and we named it the Wyman Historical Center or something, or the Historical Center, it gave them their family name recognition. Maybe there's a way to solve two problems. One, from the town standpoint, to get rid of an eyesore in what I perceive as a problem in town since at least 1973, and two, to have a building that I guess Chris says can be restored as the building inspector. He says I thought it would be a tear down, but he thinks apparently it can be restored. And you could restore it in its period, so it looks like the period that it was originally built, which would really be great for a historic building to look just like it originally was intended to look. You get parking right across the street. low-density residential zone allows for a civic building or town building, so there wouldn't have to be a town zoning change. And so what I would like to do first is get permission from the select board to approach the Wymans, and although there isn't any town historical commission yet, basically I'd say I was representing the town, I guess, or somebody else could go do it, and feel them out whether that's a possibility. And if they have no interest in that, then I guess I'd propose coming back to all of you and talking about the library site. I put some rough numbers down that just come off the top of my head on cost of this, and I think it's a $350,000 project if you built a new building over there. And that includes digitizing the video and the pictures that we have. It includes architects. It includes $200 a square foot for building. And I think it's really doable. I've thought about getting 10 people at 10 businesses at 5 businesses, at $10,000 each, and I think we could get 30 people at $5,000 each. And I think we would get 50 people at $1,000 each, and then there's maybe some grant money available. So if you add all that up, you come up to about $350,000. I think it's doable. It would be over a 3 or 4 year time frame, so somebody would pledge money, or a company like the Meredith Village Savings Bank that might pledge money, they'd have 3 or 4 years to pay for it, because it would take a while to pull this whole thing together. But I really think it's doable financially. Maybe the numbers are about the same if you got that house and renovated. It's probably not talking much different from numbers. But anyway, that's kind of where I am on this thing. And it's so I would propose that that come next March, if that's what it takes, the town establish a historic commission, and I'd like to propose activist names, people that I think, because it's going to take a lot of work, and people that I think would be really willing to be active in this, and so that's kind of where it is. I heard the library trustees are against it, but it's what they heard. I don't know how they heard about it, but I think they're afraid that they're going to have to staff it. So I think which wouldn't be the case.
Do we have to wait till next year to form an historic commission?
Yeah, it has to be formed by town meeting.
I thought we had one.
We do not have a heritage commission.
We don't. That's legally what it is. We have
We do not have a historic. We have people who help catalog information and stuff like that.
So we'd have to wait to the next town meeting.
Yes.
The other site that I think, just as you're talking about possible sites, if we could ever get this project in, creating a village green in the center of town, it'd be a wonderful.
Bill Cameron suggested that, and when I was talking to the Waterville Foundation, Mike Fergo was suggesting that the town take over the Ray Center cottage. So I think you can end up with a fight from the Ray Center.
We already own it.
I know you own it, but still, you'd have to kick them out.
We're not going to kick them out.
But so
it's not the building. You can't change the building.
Yeah, and so I don't think that's.
Yeah.
So in the 3 or 4 years it's going to take to pull this thing together, maybe something will happen. I'd hate to count on the town square and nothing ever happens there.
Oh no! I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, it would have to be the convergence of a whole bunch of stuff at the right time.
I mean, if we start raising money and
right.
a year and a half from now, all of a sudden there's something going in the town square. Well, we could switch gears.
Right.
If you establish a heritage commission and then establish a trust fund for the town, then all of those donations become tax deductible.
Right.
You don't have to go out and form a 501c.
Right.
Why do we need? Why? I'm just curious. If this does not involve the expenditure of town funds at this stage, why is the Heritage Commission something that the voters have to vote on?
Well, the Heritage Commission under the RSA can actually accept gifts of money and real property. So if the Wymans were to donate, they could donate to the town. Because if he goes out and sets up,
it's a private foundation.
Well, then he has to go out and set up a 501c3
I see.
and go through all that. Whereas if they do it through the town, it's all tax deductible.
You are aware, just in, we should make you aware, and because I don't have any problem with him talking to the Wymans. But we've been sending letters to the Wymans. Did you tell them no? Telling them that their property is really.
Yeah, well, that's like being out for them, you know, it gives them
Yeah.
a name, they can take a tax deduction, they can
Right.
have a naming rights.
Absolutely.
It might be just quirky enough that they go for it. And
Okay.
And
I've
I think
never-
it would be better coming from him than
Yes.
from us. So-
Yeah, and
Right?
so if you guys are willing, I'll approach the Wymans and then come back to you guys and
You okay?
No problem at all.
No, I.
and if they say no, then I can come back to another select board meeting and we can talk
Yeah.
about other.
I know between Sandy and I, we would have just a personal interest in getting involved.
I think it'd be great, and I've seen what can be done with the Stratton Foundation just since 1962 till now, and to go back to 1829, I think there's some really great opportunities to preserve some stuff that.
Well, we have boxes of stuff at Dartmouth that we have no place to keep it.
Well, I was at the.
It belongs to the town.
I was at Jane and John Bergeron video that bought the old bed and breakfast up here from, and they have boxes of old wigwag stuff and old AIA stuff, and
Right.
it's either in their basement or it's in their back hall.
Right.
I mean, I think pulling this stuff together, and loads of people have stuff in their attic, you know,
Right,
some
yeah.
World Cup clothes.
No,
and
it's the thing. I have CDs, and we won at an auction one time that contained hundreds of digitized photographs of all the water.
yeah,
I don't
and
know,
I guess
man.
there's stuff still over in Dartmouth.
Right.
There's stuff over there.
From
so-
the 1800s.
Yeah, I mean,
from the
we ever have that.
1800s. Yeah.
Well, if you would just keep us informed and anything we can do to help
Okay.
you,
Right.
I think we'd be forever in your debt.
That'd be great. I
That's
think it'd be a fun
that'd be
project,
great.
and I'm happy to do it.
Okay. Okay, move on. No other privilege of the floor, right? We're going to go back to the approval of the minutes of the meeting of June 4th.
Well, it's actually June 18th. It's incorrect on the agenda.
June 18th.
I have a
Do you have
correction.
you have some corrections?
Yes, go ahead.
I do have a correction at the top of, page 4. This is after I moved the grandfather non-conforming sign. I made the motion, Bill seconded it. We never took a vote.
Right.
And on the top of page 4, it says that the motion passes. There was never a vote.
The motion was actually withdrawn.
It
It
was,
does, it states
but,
that.
It does.
but it also states at the top of the page that Mike abstained from voting and the motion passed, and there was no vote on the motion. Okay?
So we'll cross-strike that sentence.
Margaret, anything else?
I didn't see anything else.
Mike?
No, that paragraph was the one that had me too.
Okay. I have three other changes that I'd like to note. Under the item number 1, the public meeting was called to order at 3:05. It says, prior to that time, the Board of Selectmen toured the town together to review enforcement sites. I think that should be to review zoning enforcement issues and sites. Otherwise you wouldn't know what in the world we were looking at, all right? Under section 8, under the recycling, I think that what to read, Mark explains that construction debris and/or household waste has accumulated in dumpsters, primarily in the condo associations when a unit is sold and cleaned out. It's more than just construction debris. It's really people throwing away their carpets, lamps, stuff like that, right? Under the sign application, also under 8, I had under the second idea, I know we may have talked about this, but the way it's worded is not legal. The second idea would be to ask the Board of Selectmen for an exception for the current ordinance. You can't ask the Board of Selectmen for an exception for the current ordinance, right? So all you can do is ask the Board of Selectmen if their sign conforms or not. And then we vote yes or no, in which case they then can go on to the ZBA. So they don't really have an option for us to say, we'll grant you an exception on a sign. Not for something on zoning. I guess there are other things we can grant exceptions for, but not for zoning. For zoning, we just have to go by what the rules say. And those are the changes that I noted. Okay, so I'll make a motion then to approve the minutes as amended. Do I hear a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now, in reading the minutes, Mark, that led me to think a little bit about follow-up. We noted a number of violations as we took that little bus trip.
Yes.
What are we doing about it?
Chris has had meetings with most of the property owners.
Okay.
The only one that we have not is the one that's also going to be brought up today, which is Tor.
Okay.
We still have to have that meeting with him. But he has most of them as they relate to the resort. He has done a walk around with Bill Carr. He also has, Bill Cantlin was involved in that. So when you have Bill Cantlin's property, Waterville Company's property, that was part of the discussion, he's been through with them. So we are cleaning up. We have removed dumpsters that were in violation in the open. Osceola 2 has constructed their new dumpster enclosure. So we've taken action on a lot of these. The only one that I noticed coming over here today that is not corrected yet is the abode, but like you pointed out, you gave him an exception.
So it says in the minutes.
Yes.
I don't remember doing it.
I don't really
say.
remember it either, but I guess there was a discussion to give him an opportunity to make an application to the ZBA. He has not, in the intervening 3 weeks, made any phone calls to us or pulled an application or anything. So I do need further guidance from you, because there wasn't a time limit on that.
Right. Yeah, it says, mark to notify Bob Wild says an assumption of his intentions to go to the ZBA, and meanwhile the sign can stay in place.
Right.
Yeah, he needs to say whether he's going to go to the ZBA and do it promptly or take the sign down.
And I know that Chris has had at least one discussion with him since the 18th of June, and Bob again indicated that he was going to go to the ZBA, but he hasn't done anything. So,
okay.
Do you want to give him until your next meeting to get an application to the ZBA, and then he'll have to take it down, or 10 days, or how long do you want?
I think from the time you notify him, it would be reasonable to give him maybe 2 weeks to prepare an application to the ZBA. And if he doesn't get it done within 2 weeks, he's got to take the sign down.
14 days for notice.
Perfectly reasonable.
Okay.
Good.
Has the ZBA
No.
applications?
No, there was one application that was pulled, but I got an email from the Ropers last night around 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock yesterday evening that said that they've decided to not move forward with an application at this time on their side.
Then we need to notify the Ropers they need to take their sign down.
Well, they're still, one of the reasons that they gave me was that they still had part of their office at the Silver Fox. They're in the process of moving to the village, but they have not completed the move.
All right. I hear you.
I mean, and the existing sign is grandfathered.
The existing sign is grandfathered. We can't really, as long as they don't.
It is the existing sign is grandfathered, and as long as they have an office there, because it's providing directions to that office, at the point in time where the directions are meaningless,
Sure.
I don't think we could allow the sign to stay up. Once it's if it's directing people, the whole purpose of the sign is to get them to the office.
If their office
And
isn't
if
there.
their office isn't there, I don't know what we're gonna do. I mean, then it's an advertisement, and it's clear that advertisements are not allowed.
Yes, and I agree with that, but we have other signs in town that we do that with. There are other signs in town. The big sign with all of the businesses on it right outside
But
of
it's
town.
not allowed in the zoning, that is allowed, it says.
And that's
directory
allowed.
Signs are allowed on.
Right, but a lot of those
on-premise.
signs are no longer,
Oh, we know
they're
that.
not being maintained.
Right.
And that's what
So they're-
that's all I'm
they're
saying.
referring
There
to
is a
places
lot of
that
those
no longer
businesses
exist. Yeah.
no longer exist. In fact, I think we're gonna have to look, but on our big signs coming into town right by Triple I Road, I don't know that all of those are
Who
really
owns
accurate.
those signs?
Tommy Day put them up and gave them to the town.
So we own the sign, the town square sign?
No, the directory signs.
Those two,
The big sign, when you're coming down off the mountain road, and the
Yes.
first one you hit on the right-hand side that has all the wrong stuff on
yes,
it, or a lot of
that
wrong
is the
stuff.
ski area sign.
Okay.
They do
Whose
not do that.
property is that on?
That is on Forest Service land.
So as far as I'm concerned, I don't know who. What do we have to do with Forest Service land?
Well,
It's
they
within-
still have to follow our zoning.
Well, we're gonna
Even up
think
at the
about this
ski,
one.
even up at the ski area, they follow our zoning, supposedly. They are subject to our building permits.
Yeah, but
and
now it gets into, so is that an off-premise sign?
Yes, but it's a
everything.
directory.
It is.
Off-premise
But it's a
to what?
directory.
But
like
it's
Mike's-
directory, can I make a suggestion?
I don't think it is an off-premise sign, the whole ski area is off-premise.
Right, it's
You're
not
right.
out there.
Why don't we contact them and ask them to remove the signs of non-existent businesses and see what kind of
And
response
see
we get.
what's, okay.
And
That's a good
the
idea.
other sign that Tom Day gave us that we own,
Those two big green and brown signs were put up by the ski area, and then
And-
Tom Day said, you guys can have it.
those are the
And
ones
they
at
are
the
on
bottom.
town property.
Those are at the intersection of 49 Valley Road and Triple I.
Yeah,
Yes.
all right, but those aren't directories.
There are
Here's what's on.
multiple entities
Okay,
on
now on those signs that we own that were given to us so graciously by Mr. Day,
it. Yes.
are there non-existent businesses on those signs?
I would have to check.
I don't think so.
I don't
Okay,
think
if
there's
there are, we should remove them and set the tone and being the right neighbor towards the mountain.
Generally, businesses are not listed on there, mostly it's amenities.
Okay,
It's
that's
actually
what I'm
doing
trying to
conform.
town- it's a
They
ski
do
area
conform
town.
to what the regulations call for.
Now, I'm trying to visualize it and I can't.
Right.
I know the one that's got all the dead people on
Right.
it. Okay.
I see that.
You know, like the coffee pouring is no longer there, or
Ah.
the Hanukkah
Dead
galleries.
businesses, not people. Okay, so, check with ski area on sign. Okay.
It will help me tomorrow when I try to get into this a little
Yep.
bit, the planning board.
Yep.
Do we own any signs right now?
The town of Waterville Valley?
There's lots of signs erected on our right of way,
That's correct.
but we don't own any of them.
I don't
No,
believe.
we own the birthplace of
We own
freestyle.
the
We do.
birthplace of freestyle skiing.
And which is interesting, and the only reason we're gonna get away with that one, when you read the regulations, that was one of the, is that sign allowed? I don't know. Now, we're exempt from our own rules, so it's allowed. But according to the rules, I'm not sure it's allowed.
Well, we'll have to ask town council about that. Now, the other thing is, I put in your packet while we're talking about this, that's a good place to bring up. For these private signs, private business signs, which
Right.
are on the town right of way,
Right.
the town must have a written agreement with them in order for them to use public property for a private reason, okay?
Oh,
And if you look at the statute, it's just like when we signed the lease for the arena. We had to get town meeting approval of that lease. This is the same thing. Unless the town gives us, the board, the right to enter into leases for signs as a blanket authority, they would have to approve each individual one. So
why don't you draft something up, make sure that we get it into the next town meeting, which in effect gives us the right to regulate these
Now,
things.
Okay, but if these signs are coming up as temporary signs, not permanent signs, is that governed by the same regulations?
no, you have the authority up to 1 year
Right.
to enter into leases. If the lease goes beyond 1 year, between 1 year and 5 years, that is what would have to be covered by the regulation, by the town meeting vote. You cannot approve any signs for longer than 5 years at a time. So there has to be a date when
Right,
that.
no, I understand what you're saying. I'm just trying to avoid us being in the business of granting people sign rights for 5 years and anything else, where I think if we're coming up with this proposed Osceola sign to show where the wedding is, or the Gordon Research sign.
Yeah, those signs are okay.
Yeah.
You can do those just as a matter of course.
Right.
It's not under this regulation. But that's RSA 4111A. So then you get between the 1 year and 5 year time period. So these applications are only going to be good for 5 years.
All right. You make a note somewhere, Mark, so that we don't forget when we get around to
we'll
next
put it in
year's that we need some kind of a resolution or something that people can vote on. Financial updates.
I provided you with the financial update.
Right.
No departments are
Okay.
unexpectedly ahead or behind. Rec is starting to pick up. If you notice the last quarter, we had about $13,000 in revenue. In the second quarter, most of that was in the month of June. She already, through the 4th of July weekend, collected about $8,600. So, she's still a little bit behind of where we have been historically because of the slow winter, but she is starting to pick up.
Okay.
We're
Any
waiting
other
on
questions?
tax collection.
I wanted to get that number and I didn't get it, but I want to say we're probably in the high 80s right now.
Are we a little bit
On
higher
time.
than that?
We
Or
could
is
be-
it the holiday weekend that's screwed
The
us up?
holiday
4th of
weekend,
July
and I
right
think
now.
the due date was the 7th, was Monday, right? Oh, no, the
March
1st.
first.
Yeah, the 1st.
But
so
with the 4th
the
of the
holiday
mails,
weekend.
we're not bouncing
Yeah.
people, we're not charging people interest if it gets here after the holiday, right?
We gave them till Friday,
Okay.
till Monday of this week, so we're probably above 80% now.
There hasn't been one that's processed so far that the interest hadn't been
Forgiven.
forgiven because we're below that amount.
So we're,
Okay. Anything else in the financial reports that you want to go over? No? Moving right along here. Owner letter on property maintenance. Chris drafted a letter.
yes,
I'm gonna take a look at it. I know I had an issue with it.
okay.
I gotta go find it. Hold on.
Sure.
I got
It's
one.
the way he
I
worded
have
it.
it right here.
Yeah.
I got one sentence that needs a change. It's the third paragraph down. It just
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense.
That's what I was.
It should be something like, the town has elected through the code enforcement office to address these deficiencies that are contrary to the master plan
Right.
and zoning. So it just has the modifier in the wrong
Right,
place.
yeah, that was the same thing I noted. The
Town
way the
has a-
sentence is written, to just didn't make any sense.
The town has elected through the code enforcement office
Yeah,
to address these deficiencies that are contrary to the master plan and zoning ordinance listed below.
Yep.
Yeah. Other than that, I was okay.
That implies that we actually have the authority to use the master plan as a criteria for saying something needs to be done. Is that statement true? Or is it only through the zoning ordinance?
it's through the zoning ordinance, which uses as its basis
The master plan.
Yeah.
I think it's okay, but I don't want to get into an argument with some lawyer about it.
No, I understand.
Yeah, and just say, look, we put it in there, so, you know, that it's consistent with the master plan, and obviously we work off the zoning.
Right, I mean, the general standards of the community that is in the zoning
That
ordinance
is in the zoning
can
ordinance,
be
is
tied
what
back
matters.
to the
Right.
master plan,
Okay.
but that's what matters.
Okay.
Do you guys have any problem with the plan as far as sending this to the property managers?
I mean, he's already started doing
He
some of
has.
this anyway.
Yep. Well, but this letter hasn't gone.
Since the letter is general in nature, he should be prepared for, you know, questions about, okay, what are you trying to tell me here?
Oh, I think that's.
Well, you know, don't let your signs deteriorate, the roadways should be maintained, I mean, we ought to have a list of things that, in terms of our expectations going forward,
Your
you know?
dumpsters need to be behind
Right.
enclosures.
Have doors,
they need to
right.
be maintained and all weather.
Yep.
Okay.
I think the ambiguity of the letter works well for us.
Yeah, no, I don't have any problem putting them in the letter, it's just that, you know, if he gets questions.
He's gotta be ready.
Okay, recreation, open summer camp
Yeah, our first 2 weeks were down.
compared to previous year.
Compared to the average of the past 10 years.
Okay,
So
How
we're
much?
down about 20% the first week and about 7% on the second week.
okay,
In raw numbers, that's a total of 33 participants over the 2 weeks.
okay,
I think the first week was just a matter of schools
Yeah.
getting out
Less
late.
schools were.
Yeah, so we got off to a slow start. She has noticed that it's picked up, and it's, you know, seems to be gaining strength. You know, we had these 2 years, 2011, 12, which are kind of skewing our numbers. I don't know if you've ever, you know, taken.
skewing them in what sense?
Well, they were very strong years, and I don't know why.
They were very strong years throughout the valley, and the
Right.
Reserve Association numbers were
Right.
incredibly high those 2 years as well, compared to years prior and years after.
Now, when was the Resort Association?
1850?
It's been
The latest iteration.
Geez, it's gotta be,
8 or 2008 or
I
9?
think it was before that.
yeah, 5 or 6.
2005 or 6.
Wow.
Yeah,
Almost
so
10 years since we've
yeah.
done this. Okay.
So anyway, we'll continue to track those numbers. Mike, do you have any thoughts? I mean, what are you seeing at the golf course?
I'm seeing numbers down.
Same.
I'm seeing numbers way, way down.
Way down.
And I'm seeing, as I see them parade on the bicycles, I'm seeing good numbers of happy-looking kids going through. Boat numbers are up on weekends, but way down during the week.
Yep.
And I think it's a cycle one, so let's see what kind
Any
Yeah.
thoughts or guidance or anything you want Rachel to particularly do?
No, I'm interested in simply continuing to track trends in terms of attendance over time. I mean, in the short run, nothing. Always the question is there a trend at work here that's saying that we've got less of them?
Right.
And if that's the case, what are we going to do to adjust in the long run? I'm not suggesting at all you want to adjust anything this year.
No.
But is there anything that tells us about the future?
Okay.
Okay. Well, I'm going to send my grandkids to camp next week, so
There you go.
numbers will go up.
Send
A little
them,
bit.
send them in disguise with the real school.
Yeah, it's not
Secret
It's hard. I think the
Oh, it's not
name
darn.
gives them away. But but you never know. We'll go on to new business. We've talked about the Heritage Commission proposal for solid waste preparation.
Yeah. Craig Musselman is one of the primary owners of CMA Engineers. He's the CMA. He has provided us with this proposal to help us put together the RFP that would actually give to the trash haulers for this, to see if there's another potential way to provide these services. The advantages that I see to using Craig is he knows everybody.
But he's got a clue. This is his business. He knows
this
what
is
he's
his
doing.
business.
And he knows how to write something that will give us the answer we need.
And he can help us evaluate what we
I
have.
got you.
Is that okay?
I'm 100% for this proposal.
The focus of this is on requests going out to private haulers, right?
Correct.
Okay. Is he also an expert in the area of trying to figure out how to make your own internal system as efficient as possible?
Yes.
But that's not the focus of what he's doing here.
Not for this particular work,
Okay.
but it will, because he's going to be coming in and talking to Jim and Mike and Timmy,
Good.
and he's going to be
Right.
looking at our whole system, so we will have the byproduct of
Right.
his evaluation
Exactly.
of what
So
we
when
do.
someone comes in, the proposal might sound great, but it's not applicable to us. He's going to know what's
He's
not going to
gonna
work here.
And he's going to be able at the end to tell us, well, if you tweak this and this,
Right.
your system would work.
Right. Okay. No, I'm likewise in favor. Do you need something from us?
I'd like authorization to sign a contract for not to exceed number $4,500.
I'll make a motion to give Mark the authorization to sign a contract with who? CMA Engineers, not to exceed $4,500 for the purposes of a
Solid
consulting on solid waste, right?
Mhm.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
BCM environmental versus regarding Northern Pass, but I was confused by this.
Well, it's not really any decision that you need to make today.
Good.
It's something though that is coming slowly to us as Northern Pass goes through the federal and the state permitting processes. There are area towns that are getting together and forming co-ops like we did with the state education funding, so that each individual town isn't fighting a battle on its own. If there are things that they want to oppose within the application, we don't really know anything about the application at this point, but when we do, it's whether or not the town of Waterville Valley is going to participate. Are there any interests that we have with the area towns where we would want to or potentially want to join a cooperative effort to take a position? Because some town meetings have voted multiple times already
Yeah,
to
but I'm
oppose
assuming
Northern Pass.
these are
We
towns
know
where the lines are going through the town.
Right.
In our case, the lines are going within 10 miles. Well, they are going through our town, I guess, at some point, right?
No, they actually don't come within
They never
the town
actually
boundary.
never
But
get
they,
inside the boundary.
They go right by, in Thornton, they go right by us. And the question that I have is, what do we think, if there's a negative impact in Campton, Thornton, Holderness, Plymouth, is that going to necessarily be a negative impact on us where we would want to participate with them?
I think we should wait till we're asked by our neighbors to be part of this. And do we have to get a conscience of the town before we can go ahead and do this as well?
Well, that's what I'm really asking is, can we put this on the warrant in 2015 to take a town position
I think that's a good idea.
On
on Northern Pass?
Pro or yay or nay?
Are we yay or nay?
Yeah, well, but we would then have to get into what are we yay or nay on. I'm not clear what Northern Pass is anymore.
Right. Well, I think what we would do is we would go right to the
At that
deadline
time.
of
Yeah.
writing up the warrant and going as it's proposed today.
Right.
Yeah.
And then present something that we were either yay or nay.
Yeah, I certainly have no problem, with it because it's not an issue that directly impacts the town. I don't know how many citizens have an informed opinion one way or the other.
And also, I think asking whether people are yay or nay is different than asking them to spend money
Right.
Right.
to assist neighbors. So, I think we'd have to be very careful with the way
How
that,
you word it.
how you worded it, because,
We can also make it a two-parter.
Yeah, to say that we're in favor or against it is easy. To say that we would authorize the selectmen to possibly spend $10,000 to support efforts to oppose it,
right,
I think would be a completely different vote.
right. Yeah.
Well, I like the idea of two
Yeah.
warrant articles side by side, vote on the yay or nay, and then either table it if it's nay, or if it's yes, we're gonna oppose it, take up the question of the money.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, make a note, so we'll get to it at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Conference center sign permit various dates for weddings.
So I authorized the first 2 dates, but there are so many of them, I didn't wanna just blanket say yes to all of them without you guys looking at them and thinking about whether or not you wanted. And I'm sorry, I did not take a picture of this sign the first 2 weekends. I don't know if you saw them, Mike?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Okay, so did you all see them?
I mean,
It's just
are
a sign, isn't
It's
it?
a sign.
Yeah.
But can I ask, maybe to make this an A and B question as well? Could we ask them if they're going to install this, if we give them the permission to install the sign, can we ask them to also put some no parking signs up? Or has that been a non-issue? I haven't seen a wedding big enough where there have been cars
I
on the
haven't
road.
cars on the road?
Yeah.
Chris and Dave haven't
They've
said
said
anything. We haven't gotten any phone calls or anything on
Yeah.
issues. I don't know that we've had any that are big enough.
Right. So Mark, what is it that you?
Well, are you okay with these other dates? Are you okay with these signs being up at these times and on these dates?
I'm okay with, if there's a wedding, there ought to be a sign saying where the wedding is.
Okay.
I'm okay with that, right?
Yeah.
Now, have we designated you as our,
Well,
did you have the authority to grant these, permission for these?
I think you did at the last meeting,
Meeting,
but
right.
I wanted, there were just so many of these that I just wanted to get a sense of what.
As long as it's a legit
Plus we-
wedding, I don't have a problem with authorization for
Plus,
signs.
it's been a little bit of a touchy subject lately, so.
What, wedding?
No, signs.
Signs.
So I just
2014 is the
wanted
year
to-
of the sign.
As long as the nature of the sign is, if it's on town property, the nature of the sign ought to be simply providing directions as to get to the event. Where I'm gonna have a problem is if somebody wants to put a sign up there celebrating somebody's marriage. You know, that's the intent of the sign, then they're okay. Right, if the purpose of, Aronson wedding, turn left, 500 feet, they're fine.
Gift drop off?
Yeah, is that,
Right, so as long as they're directional in nature, providing directions, there is no issue. Where I would have a problem is if the sign starts to breach into something other than providing information as to how to get there.
Okay, while we're on the sign topic,
Yeah.
it's come across my desk that Kelly Ayotte will be coming up for another rally.
she is?
Yes, and what do we want to do on the billions of signs she had last time here?
We want to enforce the state ordinance, whatever it is, and maybe you're gonna find out.
I know there were signs on the Waterville property, but there are also signs on our property and the state property.
I don't know that we can do anything about it, but I will check the state.
Is there a state ordinance?
Well, No,
Oh,
there is not a state law on those signs, I do not believe.
A political sign.
There are.
But it's not in,
political signs.
see, the thing, it's not an election, so is it still considered a political sign?
here's the question. Here's
It's
the
always
question.
an election coming up.
Well,
Is there, on publicly owned property, is it just a given right that you can erect any?
No, there are DOT regulations for the state rights of way, that say when you can put them up, when you have to remove them, how big they
All right,
are.
let's find the DOT regulation, and I would think on our rights of way, for the time being, we should just go by whatever the DOT regulations state for religion, for those signs.
Yep,
oh, I forget.
yep, okay.
Yeah, until we can, and I would think if I'm gonna rewrite these sign ordinances, we ought to put in there that for the purposes of town right-of-ways, for political signs, we conform to the state regulations in the Department of Transportation. Hey. Okay.
Do we know when this rally
When
is
is the
going?
rally?
It's in my email, I'll figure it out.
Soon, or you know?
It's not this week, or, it's nothing that freaked me out with the golf course, that's why I was made aware of it.
And they can put signs all over the golf course, right? Well, that's private property, that's your decision, right? You want
Not my decision, but it's
Right.
private property.
private property. That's another issue with signs. We have these rules that say what you can do on your premises, and is off premise, does that include someone else's private property? Is that off premise? I guess it is, right?
Well,
So that if someone wants to go to Mike and rent space to put a sign up,
On my house. Yeah.
no,
At his house.
I'm assuming they can't do that.
no, without your approval, and if it's not directional, it has to be
It
directional.
have to be directional, yeah, I'm guessing.
Because that Arizona.
I could put McDonald's 12 miles.
Yeah, you could.
Or Dunkin' Donuts
21
12 miles.
That's perfectly legal. Yeah.
Maybe I'll call them.
With an arrow.
No, you certainly can.
Beverly Hills, California.
We need to review and sign the second quarter water and sewer bill commitments.
And we're pretty much on track. This is the slow quarter, so we didn't quite get to 50%, but as far as second quarter billing, but we are on track for historical.
Is this bill gone out yet? No.
It's going to hit the streets tomorrow. I think she's almost done stuffing. Or she was actually putting postage on, so should be out tomorrow.
Okay, so now we've got into old business here.
I just wanted to point out, and I think I mentioned it in my memo, these are going out with anybody that has a past due notice.
Oh,
with
yeah,
their bill.
right, okay.
It's
Just so they know how to read it.
so they know how to.
Okay, good idea.
Yep.
Update on capital projects, the garage. The garage is on hold.
Well, the construction of the garage is on hold. The removal of the contaminated soil is progressing. We're going to have an asteroid-sized crater there in the next couple of days because they're going to start digging the bad soil out, and then they'll be bringing the new stuff in.
And what is this supposedly contaminated with?
Well, right?
With a combination of oil and gasoline from the pump
Up
area.
top.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And it's all being, this cost that's going on now is all covered by the audit fund.
Okay.
If you look on, I gave you a.
But the basic garage project, even though the contractor now is on hold, remains pretty much on target
Yes.
and schedule, all right? Okay.
if you look on the expenditure year, or the budget that I gave you, the updated budget, the $6,850 under contamination remediation, and the $6,400 on the frac tank between the mobilization and monthly rental. I'm hoping that some or all of those costs will be reimbursed by the odd fund. We're in discussions with the state right now. And then in addition to those two things, there's about a $1,200 bill that I got today, which was for excavation of material beyond our garage specification that our contractor had to do because the soil was contaminated. I'm hoping that that will also be reimbursed by the state. They have already agreed that the big pile that was under the plastic before they got here, that's all being disposed of at state expense. So there's no cost to the town to do that. So we're still on the knife's edge, but we're still $5,600 to the good.
Well, does that 4,500 come out of the 56?
Which 4,500? I'm sorry.
The 4,500 that we're giving to CMA.
No.
Or is that separate?
No, it's separate.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Okay. Water line installation.
Water line installation, they are trimming the trees along the connector, and as you know, and Hiltz has mobilized and materials are starting to be stockpiled. The Forest Service has been in and went along the whole corridor when they marked the trees for cutting, so they're aware of everything that's going to be cut and have approved it. We have a trail closure plan that's in effect. Signs are all ready to be put up. When they start work, I expect that they'll actually start digging on Monday, and they will start digging in the vicinity of Well House 2 and work their way back up the trail.
It kind of looks like they have material right on top of the historic area.
The depot camp.
The Forest Service, in fact, I saw the Forest Service person here today. They're here all the time, and if they put it in the wrong place, I'm sure they'll be told. So, Forest Service is watching it very closely.
But they know about that little detour. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we played golf last night with the engineer. No, he wasn't the engineer. What does he do with the Forest Service? I don't know.
In charge of forest fires? Tom Giles?
Tom Giles?
Yeah.
He's the assistant ranger for the Pemigewasset district.
Yeah.
Well,
he's our assistant ranger.
He said everything is
he was
okay.
fine.
Everything's good.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So the water line's going in. We beat the bat, huh?
We beat the bat.
Good. Water meters almost done.
Water meters, the pits are almost done. We have a planned installation of the Forest Knoll meter pit on Thursday next week. That will involve shutting down all of Forest Knoll 1 and 2 for an entire day, but they'll be able to restore service by, they're hoping, 5 or 6 on Thursday night.
Okay.
It's just one meter for both developments because it's a huge meter. The interior installations are going very well. Sharon's coordinating with the property owners. We have a schedule. The contractor has been in and talked to all the commercial. I think they were here today, even going through commercial installations. So that's going very well. They should be out of Tyler Spring by tomorrow or Friday.
By Friday,
Yeah.
and then Mountain Sun, Summit View.
Is the next one. So, and those owners have been contacted, and so we're
It's all the property management.
So far no issues. They were in and out of town square within 2 days, so they got all 5 of them done in 2 days. So
All right.
very efficient.
Well, moving right along, NHMA policy.
Just one more thing, I gave you this spreadsheet.
Yeah.
So these are the commercial properties. We have told them that we're going to give them an estimated bill for 1 year when we start, when we finish all of the installation of the meters. These are the averages over the past 3 years for them for each quarter.
Okay.
And I would like the board's approval of these numbers to be the amounts that we bill them during the year. Remember, we have the 1 year monitoring plan. And number one,
In
asking to confirm
previous cases with these, we've actually billed them based on meter
Use.
costs.
Yes.
I understand why for other people we were not going to use the meters. Why would we not use the new meters right away for people that have always been using meters?
Because the meters that they were using were mechanical meters that were over 20 years old. And I really believe that their actual usage is significantly higher than what we have been billing them on. So what I had planned to do was to give them their usage on a monthly basis, show them what we would have billed them with the new meters, which are going to be much more accurate, but give them a year to phase in their new meter readings. Because if we don't do that, I'm afraid that
I would make a slight amendment to that, and I realize this may cost us money,
Mhm.
but I basically say is we'll use the new meters, but a not to exceed number. So, and that will be based on your average usage of the last 3 years. So if you're lower than your average usage for the last 3 years, you won't pay as much. But if you're higher, the worst you're going to pay is the average for the last 3 years.
Okay.
Because if somebody shuts something down and it's not using any water, to ask them to pay the average seems to me to be unreasonable. Okay?
Okay.
Where's the arena on this? It's not included because there's still,
Because the town.
It's a town-owned building.
okay.
They're going to have a meter, and if you want us to build them, we will. It's not in the lease. I believe we provide water and sewer
Okay.
at no charge as part of the lease agreement.
But we will.
Well, would you say that, and we have to just check that.
Yeah.
I don't think in either case it's a big number. I don't think they use much water, do they?
I will check that, but I believe that's what we had set up with them. If hired.
Now, the one that, the only other one that I can think of, Mark, that under this agreement might have to be pulled out separately, is if somebody wants to use water for snowmaking, we can't let them use their average for the last 2 years.
Oh, no, that's metered on a per.
Right. That would
use
be,
basis.
that would have to be on a special per use basis.
Oh, yeah. No,
And-
these are just our existing accounts. If you look, there's an account.
Oh, I'm assuming they were an existing account.
No, they were buying directly from us out of the hydrant.
All
Yeah,
right.
yeah, we meter
Okay.
it totally
All right.
separate.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Are we ready to move on to the New Hampshire MA policy, whatever that is?
Well, the last time we met, you talked about wanting to potentially come up with floor amendments. NHMA has their annual legislative policy meeting. And,
Oh, yes, right.
So I have printed off what the process is, and they also on their website now have all of what the other towns have already said they wanted to do. So I have that information for you if you want to.
Did you send it to us?
do that, I can send that to you.
Would you send it to it,
electronically.
and I'll try to take a look at it. I mean, it's hard to answer that question without reading it.
Okay, well, we still have till August 5th, so
Okay.
send electronically. All right.
Well, let me ask you that before we move on. You've read it obviously, or looked at it more than we have. Is there anything in there, from your experience, that you would want to point out to us right now as something we probably would be interested in?
Well, there are a couple of policy recommendations on the right to know law. You might be interested in. But a lot of this stuff has nothing to do with us.
Okay.
There is a public notice requirement and changing it to electronic notification as an actual accepted, because right now it is not an accepted way to notice people.
Okay.
So that's something that we use a lot here that we may want to support. But a lot of this stuff just is really not applicable.
All right. Well, then send it out. We'll take a look at it. Go from there.
But if there's anything in there that you do want to do that's not included, we still have time to submit something.
Okay. The Time Warner Cable Project.
Well,
I read this thing, and does this? My only question is, does this in any way potentially impact cable service here in the valley?
That would be ridiculous if it did. Wouldn't that be wild? They're trying to time a race and the whole valley goes out.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's my only question. I don't know what it sounds like. They're running a cable up to the top of Tecumseh for the purpose of what? Communicating with satellites? I thought the whole thing was fiber optic, and the cable went out of the valley down to Campton. So I don't know what they're doing. They said obviously we know about this thing. The project basically is to bury a conduit to a house fiber optic line from the White Pequot chairlift to the high country area, where it will be buried following the high country lift to the summit.
They are running fiber optic. There are still transmission and collection devices on that tower. Even though they have brought fiber into town, there are still over the airwaves transmission.
I think you ought to send back to this guy and basically ask him the question, can you give us some insight as to whether this will impact service in the valley, either positively or negatively? I mean, if it has no impact, I could care less what they're doing, But I don't, but on the other hand, I don't want people calling on the start of football season to find out we no longer have, cable service or something.
Right, or internet.
Or internet, yeah, right.
Which already costs $7,000.
Yeah, other than that, I mean, I don't have any objection if they're running cable up there. All right, does anybody care if they're running cable? No. It doesn't impact anything.
Well, as long as it doesn't wreck our service.
Right.
Yes.
Privilege of the floor too. There's nobody here. Okay.
Tom.
Board concerns and directives action list.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
We have a form that we received today from the Department of Safety, New Hampshire Department of Safety, that we need to have you sign. I guess we can't do it as staff. So this is on an extension of our grant, paying for our pre-disaster mitigation plan update, which we're in the process of doing. So if you could just each sign that.
This is not to buy another Hummer, right?
No, this is not to buy another Hummer.
Okay.
Promise.
It's to buy an Oldsmobile to get us to the Hummer.
From the building to the Hummer. No, and it's a Lamborghini. Except this is the Maserati.
Have we ordered the new window for the Lamborghini?
Yes, we have.
Thank
We actually have may even have it on the site.
You laughed about that. I remember I sent you a photograph one time in Italy. I guess the police can, if for speeders over a certain limit, they can confiscate the cars.
Yeah.
Well, I got some police cars that are Ferraris, Lamborghinis, I mean, all these things that, oh, they're beautiful cars, I mean,
Yes, you send that.
that's what we need.
You send that to Mike, because I may forward that to you.
Yeah.
The only other thing I'm looking for some directive when we printed the water and sewer. Oh, did you do the initials? I'm sorry, I didn't have the initials. You also, I don't know why you have to initial the same page. But,
Oh, okay.
You know, so
And all of us?
each one of you, yes, please.
And today is the, 7, no, it's the 8th, right?
No, it's 9.
7/9. Alright.
So this sheet there, that needs some guidance on. These are the water and sewer accounts, which are.
Do we have to do initial both pages here?
No, it just said one, right?
Yeah.
One's got
One.
do they both have
Yeah.
tabs?
Yes.
Yep.
They were folded up together.
These are delinquent balances, water and sewer.
Greater than $500.
And remind me as to what power we have in the event that someone declares bankruptcy. Do we go to the head of the line to get this money, or is this gone?
If it's bankruptcy, we do not go to the head of the line, but
But
every case,
We're lean. We're
We
municipal
are
lien, we
lean.
don't get wiped
But
out.
does
won't
a
get wiped
municipal
out, but-
lien have
Precedence.
precedent over a mechanics lien?
Yes.
yes.
Okay. All right.
But we have never not been paid.
Right.
Every case that we have had.
And I'm looking at these and I know a bunch of these properties are listed for sale.
Well, here's my question though. We have two,
Yeah.
commercial businesses on here. BW, Silver Fox, and North Star Inn.
And they've got to be well over half the total, right?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
You do have authority, statutory authority, under RSA 3831 to shut off these accounts. The residential ones are all in condominiums, so we cannot shut those off because there are people on the same line that have paid their bills, and we can't suspend their service. However, the commercial properties are not domiciles, at least one of them is not providing any domicile to a person. But even if they are domiciles, we can shut those off if you want. And if the board wants to, I will move forward with the letters
I would,
to start that if you
I
want.
would start the process and hopefully we get a dialogue.
Okay.
That's my thought.
And you,
In the case of let's talk about the Silver Fox Inn in particular. Shutting off the water or sewer is simply, is shutting his business down totally. So it would be taking the step of forcing them into something.
Well,
I mean,
what I think we need to do.
Or you just don't think they're paying the bills, period.
What?
it's still.
Yeah, we're in public session.
You're
so
in
that's-
public session.
Right.
I mean, but there's no problem, these are all public information.
Right, I think a strong dialogue has to be initiated with both of these people to sit down and tell them we're not gonna tolerate, these are the steps we can take. What are we gonna do if we don't? And if they ignore it again, we find a time period which works and we take that step.
Okay.
You know, this has gone on since I've been a selectman.
Yeah.
And on these bills, are we attaching interest to these?
Yes, oh yes. And we have started the lien process on these,
Right. So we have
we
taken,
need to,
Well, I think in this.
Now, there are obviously the big dollar amounts. If I look, but the others generally get smaller bills. If I looked at it in terms of age, who is it's got the oldest outstanding bills?
The
Would it
second,
still be those two, or?
no, Barnes is right there. He's as old as,
That's gotta be huge, because that's a condominium.
it's condominium, so he probably goes back, I don't know
10
that he's
years.
ever paid us,
Yeah,
since 2003.
yeah, that's $4,000 on
But
its
you
own.
can't shut him off.
I can't shut him off because he's adjacent to a unit that they have. And there's no way to isolate him in the
Oh.
system. Well,
Then what
just
about the
saying.
meters?
Huh?
The meter pits are just.
No,
the meter pits are buildings.
Right, no, no.
Buildings.
Okay, go take the faucets off.
What, in the case of someone like Barnes Fester who has never paid our bill, what other recourses might there be other than shutting it off?
Just the lien process, and
Yeah.
then eventually, a couple of years from now, the lien will mature and you can take the unit.
Oh, I think we should do that.
Yeah.
In his case,
Mhm.
it seems that until we threaten to take the unit, we're never gonna get anything, right? Is there anybody else in that category here? who's
These are
waiting?
on a different time schedule than
They are on
property
a
liens?
different, they are. We are following the same process, but in a different.
Is it like 10 years?
No, it's the same, it just started at different dates. Because we had already placed the liens for the property, taxes before we decided we're gonna move ahead with the water and sewer. So
Mhm.
we're a little bit behind our.
How many
our
years
time.
behind are they here? If you can run up a $5,000 bill, you gotta be
No,
at least.
2003.
It's 10.
Oh, so only 10 years.
Yeah.
And none of these, but we still would have to start the lien
We
process
still,
now.
yes.
I would say that we would wanna, in his case, start the lien process.
Well, it's
Well, all
been
of
the
these
lien
we
process
have.
on all of them.
We've
Right.
started the lien process on all of these,
Okay,
but these two in particular, you have options which go beyond the lien process.
Right. I think we need to sit down with them in a private meeting.
Yeah.
Or a representative from the Board of Selectmen and you sit down with them individually or solo. Individually, and say, we're done. We're just completely done. It's over. And if we have to, we will shut off your water. It's within our scope.
I think that that's appropriate,
Yeah.
and then we can start the process if we don't get any
Right.
relief.
I concur completely with the notion of sitting down with them. I'm not sure I'm willing to threaten them unless I intend to carry it out, and I'm not sure I intend to carry it out.
See, I would carry
I
it
have
out.
to think about it.
I would carry it out
I hear you.
because it's just blatantly being ignored.
Right.
And we have an example, I won't say a specific unit. They didn't pay their gas bill, they didn't get deleted, they didn't get gas, they didn't have any heat. I equate that to the same situation.
Margaret, do you have that?
What I'm struggling with is, I mean, you know, in spite of the fact that these are the two largest outstanding bills, we don't seem to have a way to treat everybody the same.
Yeah.
And that's why I asked town council, because I had the same concern,
Yeah.
and he said, it is different between commercial and residential properties,
Mm-hmm.
because if somebody is using the place as a domicile, or could, or if there's a renter in there, even a seasonal rental, you have to go through a different process than the commercials.
And there is nobody in the North Star Inn?
Well,
On a rental basis?
we may, again, if there are written leases, yes, we would have to follow that as a domicile, but we still can take that action. The problem with the condos is, you've got this building and you've got
Right, no,
8 units and 7 out of the 8 are paying their bill, we can't shut that water
Right,
off.
right.
Right.
Because we affect everyone. Even if we give them notice.
We have
So town council says that it is, that because you can't proceed the same with the condo owners, it's all right to go forward with commercial.
Yes.
When do the liens on the commercial mature?
It will be 18 months from, I'd have to check the date that we did it, but we
And
did
at
it
that
in
point in time,
April.
we can take the property?
We can.
Well,
Well,
we can
but then
follow
we-
the rules
Well,
about taking the
but
property.
remember what they did before was when they get, because we have to give them that 30-day notice letter, just like we do the property
Yeah,
taxes.
they'll pay
They'll
some
pay
money.
whatever they have to pay
Right.
to, you know, to get rid of that lien. That's been the historical.
Right.
There's another 2 pages.
Yeah.
So.
I'm just having odd thoughts about, as you said, Bill, we shouldn't be saying we're gonna shut off the water if we're not willing to do it. And I don't know whether we're willing to do it in a place whose business counts on them having working water and sewer.
Well, there are businesses, there are 20 other businesses besides these
That
two
pay their bills.
who are paying their bills, and there's one who had a larger past due balance who made an arrangement with us in 2010.
Mm-hmm.
They have remained current on all of their
Right.
bills since then, and they have a payment arrangement that they've not missed a single payment.
Let me modify a little bit of Mike's, what he said, and see if this will move us. I certainly have no problem with the dialogue. And I think part of that dialogue, to both these individuals, say, you're putting the Board of Selectmen in a very difficult position. Well, we're gonna have, if you don't start to pay this thing and clear this up over some period of time, you're gonna put us in having to make a decision whether to shut off your water and sewer. And we would like to hear your response before we vote on that decision.
Right.
But you really got us in a bind, because we don't know what else to do.
That's fine.
And let it go at that.
Yeah.
And, but I even if we're gonna shut them off, I want them down here at the meeting when we vote to do it.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Oh, absolutely, I don't have.
You know, that on this date, boom, it's done. And, you know, it's, I don't know what to do.
So let's have the dialogue.
Right,
You have the dialogue and then.
right.
But we've had
Then
one of these people.
if we ultimately voted to do it, we would probably vote to do it as of a specific date. So
Right.
they would still have time to
Right.
pay their bill before that. Okay. Yeah, that sounds like a plan.
All these other people, we have no choice. I mean, we can't.
It's the lien process and then.
No, I mean, because they're all condo.
Correct.
Okay. Under board concerns and directives, one other issue that I do, I can't now remember the name. The guy who owns the house down here that he wants to. Wyman. Have we I thought we discussed we were going to send Wyman another letter.
We did.
Has he responded?
He has not responded, but it was return receipt and they signed, Cutter Lyman signed for the letter.
When?
So, it was the week after your meeting, so the last week of June.
And what would we expect to be a reason? Did we state in there when
I
we
believe
expected to
30
respond?
days.
30 days.
Yeah,
So,
which would be the next meeting.
all right, next meeting, I want to talk about either we'll discuss his response or we're going to discuss what we're going to do with no response. Okay? Okay, anything else on the board concerns directives? No? We do have a, we're gonna go into non-public.